Yo, welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Jakey. Here I am, live from Boise, Idaho. Back in the Idaho groove after being out for about a month. Woo! Um, Jesus, more than a month. Like 5 weeks away from Idaho. It's the longest I've been away from Idaho since I moved here. And, am I gonna stay here? I don't know. Now it seems like I'm not, even though 2 weeks ago on this podcast, the last episode. I'm sorry, I missed a week. Things have been hectic. I've been on the move, processing a lot. So I haven't been back with an episode, but yeah, all sorts of things have changed. Let's see, what's happened? I've seen 5 Jack White shows since I last checked in, and man, each fucking one of these shows is better than the one before. And when I was down in DC for the show there, I took a bus down to Washington D.C. What a day that was! Took a bus down there to see Jack and to see my friend Steve Jackson, lead singer of the Pie Tasters, who I love so dearly, who I've never actually hung out with outside of a show. And I've been working with his band for damn near 30 years now. And we've always enjoyed each other's company, but never really got to hang out outside of outside of shows. And I took the bus down to DC. What a day this was. I'll get to the shows in a minute, but I took a bus down to DC, and the hotels were ridiculously expensive. So I booked a bunk bed room at a hostel, and I wasn't feeling good about staying there in a bunk bed room with COVID and with God knows how many other people. I booked a room with it was with 12 beds because that was the cheapest for $41. And I got off the bus. The bus got snarled in a lot of traffic, so I got into DC pretty late. I tried to book an early bus so I could go to the Smithsonian Museum. I've never really hung out in DC either. Tragedy, my old band played there a bunch of times, and only one time did I ever really go hang out, and that was to go walk around a couple of the monuments. And then I went for the Million Juggalo March gathering. Back when the Juggalos were declared a gang by the FBI, they held a big rally in front of the Lincoln Memorial in the National Mall, and I went down to that. But that was the same thing. I took a train down, went to the march, met Ian MacKaye from Minor Threat and Fugazi, who was there. And my friend, I was like, oh my God, look, it's Ian MacKaye. And I said hi real quick. And then I said to my friend Nick Karp, who was a photographer, who was there to shoot the march, I was like, it's Ian MacKaye. And he got a picture of him, and it was pretty cool. And the picture went viral. Ian was just standing there, like, straddling his BMX bike. And he had come out to see what all the hubbub was about. I thought that was cool, a guy like that supporting Juggalos, kind of. He wasn't technically supporting them. He was just out. He wasn't, like, chanting with his fist in the air. But I'd say just being there at the rally was being in support of them. But yeah, I was hoping to get a little bit of time in DC, and I didn't. By the time my bus got in, I went to the hostel, dropped my bag off, and then I pulled a pro move. I found another bus that was leaving at 1:40 a.m. to go to Philly, where I was planning on going the next day anyway to hang out with my buddy Dr. Joe, my dentist, and longtime best bud, and to get my teeth cleaned. So I went to the show, and at the beginning of the show, I was like, oh man, like, I can't believe I traveled all this way. Haven't I seen enough Jack White shows? And like 2 songs in, I was like, there's no such thing as enough Jack White shows for me right now in my life. And the show is fucking spectacular. It was at this venue called the Anthem, which is fucking spectacular. And I didn't get to see much of DC though. Like I said, I got in late, so I walked past the White House. Just what a creepy vibe it is now. Especially they have huge walls up around the White House, so you can't even really see it the way you used to be able to. They got like 12-foot walls because I guess people were trying to climb over the fence. And is that the first sign of the decline of an empire, when people are trying to jump over the fence of the presidential palace, and just run at it? Like people without even any plan. And, the people who've done that, that's different than the organized people who made marches on the Capitol. I think it's just people are fucking desperate. And out in the streets of DC, I got off the bus and there were homeless people everywhere and encampments. And I was like, is this what the capital city of the richest, most prosperous nation on earth should look like? Like, fuck no. And it's just amazing that things have deteriorated to this level and seem to be getting worse for the people who don't have much. I think a lot of us got lulled into this false sense of security, those of us who are firmly in the middle or upper middle class. They're like, everything's fine, everything's gonna be fine. But if you don't have much, you have even less now due to all the fucking crazy inflation that's going on, and there not being a lot of jobs to get. But yeah, that's a topic for another time. It was jarring to see so many homeless people just a block from the White House. Um, and I walked around the White House and walked past the Washington Monument. I was like, what, who comes to this city? Like, so weird. There was a whole lot of Hasidic Jews running around in front of the White House and the Washington Monument and in front of the Smithsonian, which I walked by after it was closed. And I guess it was just after Passover, so maybe that's a vacation time for them, or maybe there was half price at the Holocaust Monument. Um, but I didn't get to see much, and it didn't leave me wanting to see much. And then I walked down to where the show was. They built this new venue called the Anthem. IMP did it, which is the big independent promoter in DC, and a really big independent promoter, so big that Live Nation doesn't even really fuck with them much in DC. They have the 930 Club, they have the Lincoln Theater, they have the Anthem, which holds 6,000 people, and they have Merriweather Post Pavilion, which is like the shed, the outdoor amphitheater for the DC area. And they built an amazing venue with the Anthem, I gotta say. It was just gorgeously done. Three balconies. The balconies all had these box seats that angled in towards the stage, which was pretty fucking cool. And the stage was big enough to fit a whole arena production, which is what Jack White had brought out, which also fit at the Masonic Temple, and obviously it fit at the Barclays Center and the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, but it didn't fit at the Tabernacle. So he had a scaled down production. But it's not a lot of 6,000 cap rooms that are set up like a theater that are going to have that big of a production space. But obviously, they must have done that on purpose, knowing that they would get a lot of acts that are touring with arena sized production and wanted to be able to bring it into that building. And they really just left no stone unturned. It was just a beautiful building. The sightlines were great. The sound was fucking phenomenal, crystal clear. Best sound of the tour for sure. And it's down in the only drawback of it is that it's down in the redeveloped Wharf District, I guess, of DC. So it was very much a hotel and entertainment district. There was two other music venues I forget the name of that were smaller than that, and just a bunch of restaurants and a few hotels. And Steve had made a reservation for us to go eat at this seafood place, Hank's seafood place, and they had a water line break, so they canceled our reservation, and everywhere else around the area was mobbed because there was a big show going on. So we had to walk pretty far, a mile and a half, to find another place to eat because of just the way the district is set up. And I said to Steve, I was like, does this town have a soul? And he's born and raised right in the DC area, just across the river, I think in Alexandria, Virginia, literally right across the Potomac. And I was like, does this town have a soul? And he was like, it used to. And I was like, right, until all the rich people moved in and squeezed out all the middle and lower class people. And he was like, yeah, exactly. So now it's really poor people or really rich people, which again is becoming sort of the way of a lot of the major cities in this country. But anyway, I had a great show. Steve left like right as the encore started so that he could beat the traffic and get home because he's a working man with kids. So I didn't blame him. And I stayed till the very end, and then I went down and watched them tear apart the stage, which was fun. It was the first time I got like really right down there and watched them take the whole stage apart. And it's so much stuff struck me as cool in watching them take the stage down because the White Stripes had their color scheme, which was red and black and white, and Third Man Records is all black and yellow, and Jack White's solo stuff is all blue. And for his solo tours, he's been using a lot of blue lighting. But this tour took it to another level. It's all the lighting is in blue and white. There's beautiful blue velvet curtains around the stage. But beyond that, like all the video screens were projecting images that were all blue and white and black. But then when I got down close to the stage, I noticed that all the mic cables and the guitar cables were blue. He had built custom cabinets that went over every monitor that were painted blue. All the cable wraps for the snakes that went around the stage were blue. It's really, really awesome attention to detail, and I love it. And obviously, if you know anything, you've been following his album release and stuff. Um, he dyed his hair blue for this album release and this tour, and all his clothes have been blue or black and white on stage, and it's just a really cool look. And I got to go backstage at the Tabernacle, and all of the overhead fluorescent lights that they have in the corridors backstage had blue gels taped up over them that the production does. So it's got such a Prince vibe. The way Prince had everything purple, um, Jack's got everything blue, and man, these shows are just, you know, I'm not going to tell you that you got to go see a Jack White show or you got to like Jack White. But for me personally, that's the beauty of music and art, is that it's subjective. And for me personally, it's the best thing that I could be seeing right now musically over and over. And he's been playing different sets every night. He's played almost 70 songs in 20 shows on the first leg of the tour. He plays about 25 songs a night, but he's played 70 different songs. So the set kind of starts the same every night. It's the first two songs, and then it goes off into different directions. And usually the same two of the same songs end up in every encore for the most part. A couple times they haven't, but ends every show with Seven Nation Army, almost every show. Um, there was a show, geez, I think it was the DC show where he ended with something different. It wasn't Seven Nation Army, and I can't remember what it was now. It might have been Lazaretto. I don't know, but yeah, it's. I used to go to a lot of Prince shows. I saw 42 Prince shows, and I don't even know how many Jack White shows I've seen now because I didn't keep count at the beginning, but I've seen 8 on this tour, and I'll be seeing more. So I saw the DC show, and then I went back to my hostel, and I just laid down on the bed, on the bunk bed for like an hour. I walked back to my hostel, laid down on the bunk bed, and just fucked around on my laptop for a little bit, and then grabbed my bag when it was time to go to the bus station. It was pretty cold outside. So I waited to the last minute, walked down to the bus station, got on the bus, took it to Philly. And man, I got to tell you, you have not lived until you've taken a bus into Philadelphia at 4 o'clock in the morning. The bus let me out at 4:05 on 6th and Market. And then I had to walk to Rittenhouse Square where my friend lives. And it was like a mile and a half walk. So it was Google Maps told me it was going to be a 28-minute walk, and I made it in 21 because I was walking fast, and I had a black wool cap on with my hair stuck up underneath, and I had black jeans and a plain black hoodie, and I put my hood up over my head, and I just put my shoulders back and my head high and walked fast. And there's a lot of cretins out on the street in the middle of the night in Philadelphia. A lot of shifty looking motherfuckers. Which is what I think, right? And then I realized, like, wait, I'm one of the shifty looking motherfuckers. And at one point, I made a turn down one of these streets, and I got off Market, and I think I was probably around 11th Street, and I made a left, and I was walking, and there was a guy coming at me, like, not coming at me, but walking in my direction on the sidewalk. And he saw me turn the corner. I saw him, and he crossed the street. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Who's the scary one now? Then I got into Joe's house. He left a key hidden for me somewhere. I'm not going to say where because I don't want you sneaking into Joe's house in case he left a key for somebody else. But he left a key for me, went upstairs, went to sleep, got up the next day, had a great day with my man, Colin McGinnis from None More Black. Played in H2O for a while. Air Team Colin. He runs his own HVAC company now. So we got in his van and we went. Kate, the manager of the Bouncing Souls, has an awesome vegan diner in South Philly called The Tasty, which is named after Tasty Kate, which was her nickname for a while. And we went and got breakfast sandwiches there, and they were okay. They were good, but vegan breakfast sandwiches didn't do it for either of us. So then we went to Tony Luke's, famous cheesesteak joint in South Philadelphia, and I got a steak and egg and cheese sandwich, and Colin got a scrapple and egg and cheese. And then, of course, every time I go to Tony Luke's, I got to go to the ECW arena. And much like every time I go to the ECW arena, I got to go to Tony Luke's. So we went by the ECW arena, and I got a picture of me standing in underneath the street sign for Swanson and Rittner, and got a picture of the arena, which is where all the big ECW shows were in Philly back in the day. And I've been to so many great wrestling matches there over the years. I once saw Terry Funk and Sabu in a barbed wire match down there, which was incredible. It was when WWE did the ECW reunion in like 2005. They called it One Night Stand, and everyone who wasn't booked for that show, wasn't part of WWE, they went and did their own show in Philly the night before. And Terry Funk and Sabu had done a barbed wire match, a no roped barbed wire match, and that night, we knew Terry Funk and Sabu were going to wrestle again. It was a three-way match with Shane Douglas, and I'm not going to mention him again because he wasn't a big part of the match, and he's just kind of a jabroni. Nobody likes Shane Douglas. I remember that there's been a lot of matches where I've been at where Shane Douglas has been wrestling, like small indie matches at like armories and high school gymnasiums and stuff, where I've yelled shit out and like told him I was going to fuck his mother, and he got really mad and like fucking eyed me and yelled at me, told me to shut up, which I take as a badge of honor at a wrestling match when you get the heel worked up enough to yell back at you. I think it's all part of fun and games, but it's not really fun and games when I'm yelling at Shane Douglas because I really don't like him. I think he's kind of a scourge on the industry. Just always kind of an asshole that not many people have good things to say about him. Remember, someone found out that this was like in the early internet days, he was managing a Target, and it kind of like ended up on some message boards and at one of the shows, like in a quiet part of the match, I was like, go back to managing Target, fucko. But in that match, Terry Funk, who at that point was probably in his early 60s, Terry Funk came to the ring. They played his entrance song Desperado, and he hobbled down to the ring because his knees are shot. Have you ever seen the documentary Beyond the Mat? He goes for an MRI, and the doctor is like, shows him his MRI, and is like, you see that area there where there's nothing on the x-ray? That's where the cartilage is supposed to be. How can you even walk? I can't even believe you can walk in here without crippling amounts of pain. And Terry Funk's like, I'm in crippling amounts of pain, but I'm Terry fucking Funk, and I don't show it. So he hobbled down to the ring, and he got on the mic. They played Desperado, such a great entrance song for him. And he got on the mic, and he was like, hey, everybody, I want to thank you for coming out here to the ECW arena. We want to give you guys something special. And you just give us a couple minutes. We're going to take the ropes off this ring and get it wired. And the whole place went bananas. I started crying, literally. I was in the front row. I had bought front row seats for that show. I went with Backyard Bill. I started crying. I was like, I can't believe Terry Funk and Sabu were going to do another barbed wire match. Because the one they had done in the 90s pretty much made it so that nobody needs to ever do barbed wire matches again. And they still do them. But that was the gold standard of barbed wire matches, at least in America. Japan has some crazy ones too. But at that point, I went over to buy a t-shirt from his wife at the t-shirt stand, and all they had was like triple XL and medium or something, and I needed a large at that point. And I was like, oh, you don't have my size? Okay, I'm sorry. And I gave her $20, and I was like, this is for Terry. And she was like, no, we don't have a shirt for you. And I was like, I know, but I love Terry Funk, and I just wanted to have $20 of mine. And she was like, no, and she slid it back across the table at me, and then I slid it back at her, and I ran away. And I was like, you have to keep it. I was so nervous, and so happy I did that. And that match that night was fucking incredible. Man, the things Terry Funk has done for us. Turns out Terry Funk is now in an assisted living home down in Texas, and seems to be doing okay. His wife passed away a couple years ago, and he kind of really couldn't look after himself, and he's not taking bookings anymore, not going to wrestling shows. Mick Foley just posted a picture of him. He went down to Amarillo to visit him at his home, and said he's doing pretty well. And from what I've heard from another buddy who's deep in the wrestling world, Mike Johnson, head writer at pwinsider.com. Mike Johnson says that he's pretty with it and can remember things. Isn't as bad off as a lot of wrestlers can be at that age, especially hardcore wrestlers. Terry Funk was kind of the king of hardcore wrestling later in his career, which is wild. But Terry Funk never took a lot of headshots with chairs, which is what is done in a lot of wrestlers, I think. Uh, Man, there's some other great Terry Funk stories. Like I used to email Terry Funk. I found a couple of emails for him online, and I would send him emails offering him $5,000 to have dinner with me and Backyard Bill in the mid 2000s. I was like, "We'll fly to Amarillo, restaurant of your choice, just a 2 hour steak dinner, our treat." And he never replied to any of those. But then at a roast of, I believe it was a roast of, I think it was the roast of the Iron Sheik. I went down and met Terry, and for like $100, you could get a VIP meet and greet where he would sign your poster and one other thing. And I had him sign my arm right back here, and I went and got his signature tattooed on me, and then I was able to show it to him at two different times. Once at the Gathering of the Juggalos, and another time at the Armory in Philadelphia, where I went to see some wrestling matches. And both times he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I seen a lot of crazy things in the wrestling business, but I ain't never seen a guy get my signature tattooed on his body." Both times the same thing. The second time he was sitting next to Ric Flair, and he's like, Rick, look at this guy got his my autograph tattooed on him." And oh man, I fucking love Terry Funk. Definitely, that's my favorite wrestler of all time. So yeah, went by the ECW arena, and then took the train back up. I stayed in Philly that night too. Took the train back up to New York and went to Jack White again, this time with Charlie Ryan, co-founder of the Brooklyn Bowl, former general manager at Wetlands Preserve, literally probably my oldest friend in New York City. Charlie and I started at Wetlands within a couple of days of one another. So I guess my oldest friends in New York that I'm still friends with would be Chris Zahn, who I don't talk to that much. We text every now and then, who worked at Wetlands, and Charlie Ryan. And Charlie and I worked in the office together a lot, and he managed Wednesday nights at that point, and I think I was DJing Wednesday night, so we spent a lot of time together right from the jump, and we're still, definitely one of my closest friends. Probably the person I talk to more than anybody else. Especially post-treatment, but even before treatment we were talking a lot, but I wasn't talking to anyone too much when I was going crazy. But Charlie and I went to see one of the Rack on Tour shows right before I took off to kill myself. That was beginning of October, late September 2019. We went to see the Rack on Tours, which is one of Jack White's bands, at the Hammerstein. So Charlie and I went to the show. We had a great fucking time. We went out for a great Ethiopian dinner, and then that was my fifth show of the tour, and I was like, "This is incredible." And it was pretty much after that I was like, I got to go see three more of these. And he was playing down at the Tabernacle in Atlanta, which Bill Burr did a special from there. I forget which one it was called. Might have been called "You People Are All the Same." Whatever it was called. It was the black and white one. He filmed that at the Tabernacle, and I remember it was really striking because it looked beautiful because it was in black and white. And it was a great special too, one of his best. And when they showed shots of the theater, I was like, that place is gorgeous. And then I Googled where it was shot, and it was shot at the Tabernacle in Atlanta, which is a former church. And I was always like, I got to get to that venue, And then when I saw Jack was playing 3 nights down at the Tabernacle, I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm going. And that was one of those things where I was like, I can't really afford this, but I can if I have the money, and I'll find more money later, right? I'll figure it out, like I always do. So it was like, man, it was probably cost me close to $1,000 to go to those shows between my plane ticket, I changed my ticket to Boise to go to Atlanta, and then I had to pay $469 to get from Atlanta to Boise because plane tickets have gone through the roof in the past few weeks. It's a combination of gas prices being high, but more so of demand going through the roof now that the mask mandates have been lifted. Because it was literally 2 days after the mask mandate was lifted for planes is when the plane tickets went through the roof. Everything's crazy expensive. If you're a person who flies, now is probably not the best time to do it. Even flights between New York and LA, Vegas and LA. I was looking at flights recently. I ended up finding a flight from Salt Lake back to New York for next week. But all those flights were between $700 and $800 round trip, and usually you can find those for the $300 range, no problem. But thankfully, I had a friend who requested that she go unnamed, who got me that flight with points, so I can go back to New York next week, 2 weeks from now. I have 3 shows in 2 days going on. I have Too Many Zoos on the Liberty Bell. I have Schism, the Tool tribute on the Lucille, and then I have Ship of Fools, number 48 or whatever, 25, I don't know. I lose track of how many of these things we've done, which is a Grateful Dead tribute cruise that I started with Dave Nolan, former Wetlands DJ and host of the Grateful Dead Hour called Morning Dew on WBAI Radio. I started that series with him. He dearly departed, passed away, but I've kept that up, and we actually donate $300 every year to the Morning Dew show that's still on BAI. Maybe they changed the name of it, but we still make a donation to the show that he started, or to the radio station in honor of his show, or however you want to call that. But yeah, I was like, I gotta go down to Atlanta. So I looked for a hotel in Atlanta, and I found one, and it was right next to Centennial Park. It was 2 blocks away from Centennial Olympic Park, which is where the bomb went off when Richard Jewell was accused, the guy who helped people when the bomb went off, and then was accused of being the guy who planted the bomb, but he wasn't, I guess. He was a security guard or something. But yeah, this hotel, I found it on hotels.com, and it was $81. And I was like, everything else was in the 200 plus range. And even the Holiday Inn Express was $200 for the nights I wanted to go. And I was like, $81 probably going to be dicey. And I got down there, and bro, it was dicey. I flew to Atlanta. I booked the early flight. It was the same price, but I was like, I want to get in early. I'll drop my bags. I'll go to the park. I'll go for a run. I want to enjoy my time in Atlanta. Of course, I get there. It's pouring rain. I landed at like 10 a.m. So by the time I got to the city, it was like 11:30. Found the hotel. It was almost 12. I went to check in. I was like, can I get an early check-in? And they were like, the woman behind the counter was like, no, check-in's at 3 o'clock. And I was like, oh, fuck. And lots of sketchy characters around downtown Atlanta. Did not feel like a vibrant downtown area. I guess people in Atlanta have not gone back to the offices. A lot of homeless people, a lot of cops. I saw a couple of arrests being made. And it was raining, and I couldn't put my bags away, so I went to walk to the Waffle House, and there was a huge line there. And then I saw that Centennial Park was all closed because there was a festival going on there called Sweetwater 420 Festival, and I was like, oh, right, that's the festival Karina's playing. Karina, longtime Rocksoft GM, Karina Reichman, was playing at that festival. I was like, oh, Jesus. I didn't realize it was in this park. Now I can't even use this park. Fuck. And then I walked over to the Tabernacle, and who was outside the Tabernacle but my buddy Ross, who's doing merch for the tour. And Ross was like, holy shit, what's up? You're here. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to text you. I didn't want to bother you. He's like, no bother at all. Come on. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I can't check into my hotel. And he's like, I had a checked bag. Stupid. I never fly with checked bags, but I wanted to bring a bunch of stuff from Idaho to New York. So I borrowed a bag from Greg and Shanti, and I had to bring it back to them. And so I had this big rolly suitcase that I was pushing around in he was like, oh, you can put it in the merch truck. And then I went inside and I helped him for like 3 hours moving merch boxes around, taking them off the truck, bringing them into the venue. And it made me feel useful. And it gave me a purpose for the day. And I really liked it. And he kept saying, you don't have to do this. And I was like, I know I don't have to. But like, I would have done it if it was any show that Ross was working. Just because I like him and I enjoy his company. But I was like, well, fuck it. This is Jack White's merch, and I'm such a super fan. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to help move on all these boxes. And it was a lot of box moving. It was something like, I don't know, it's like 48 boxes of merch that we brought in down a slick set of stairs, metal stairs in the rain. The Tabernacle is this beautiful theater, and then they have another venue in the basement. And for big shows, they use the basement venue as a big merch stand, and they put all the merch up on the stage, and they have like stairways. You walk up onto the stage, buy your merch, and then walk down another stairway. And after I helped him load all the boxes in, he was like, what are you gonna do now? And I was like, I don't know, man, it's pouring rain outside. I can't check in yet, or it's about to be check-in time. But it was like, my hotel looks really shitty. Can I just hang out in here and like read? Because when I put my bags away, I just kept a book out. And he was like, yeah, fuck it, hang out, read a book. And I just sat there for like 2 more hours and managed to catch a little sneak peek of Jack's sound check, which was pretty cool. And but not long because it's a closed sound check and no one's allowed to watch. But I got to go backstage with Ross and have lunch and talk to some of the other people that were on the tour with him, and it felt kind of cool and it felt good to be like useful. And then finally around 5, I went back and checked into my hotel, and Miss C, like like Miss Loretta. Her name was Miss C. Miss C checked me in, and she informed me that the air conditioning wasn't working and it was pretty hot down there. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, I don't want to be in a place with no air conditioning. And she was like, you can cancel. If before you check in, you can cancel and we'll give you a full refund. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to cancel then. And she was like, or I can give you a room with a balcony and you can just open the sliding glass door and we get a breeze. And I was like, I knew when I first saw how shitty the hotel was when I first went to check in, I went and looked for other hotels, and the cheapest one I could find was $163, like 2 miles away from the venue. And I was like, I don't want to walk 2 miles. I specifically booked this to be 2 blocks away. Um, so I was like, you know what? Fuck it, Miss C. Make sure it's a good room, though. And I gave her $20, and she was like, well, all right. And she's like, I'm going to give you one of our best rooms. And I don't think that existed in this hotel. I think they were all the exact same room. And then I got in there and it was like dicey, sure, but it was like no worse than the Cabana or plenty of other places I've stayed. I mean, it was kind of grody, but I mean, you get what you pay for, right? I'd actually read some reviews too online after I first went to check in, and I was just trying, like, kind of killing time outside the Waffle House. And I was like, I wonder how bad the reviews are, and they were all really bad. But then I realized, like, who's writing these reviews, right? Or you're gonna book an $81 hotel in the heart of downtown Atlanta, and it's gonna be shitty, and you're gonna give it a fucking 1-star review on TripAdvisor and be like, I can't believe the sheets were thin. There's cigarette fucking burn in the carpet. Like, of course there was. Of course. What the fuck do you think? Like, if you want a nicer hotel, then book a nicer hotel. Don't book the fucking Atlanta downtown Barclay. For $81 when the Holiday Inn Express is $200. That pretty much tells you you're gonna be staying in a fucking dump. And then people were like, there's fucking homeless people all around outside. Sometimes they're in the lobby. It looks like a bus station. I didn't see any of that, but in the lobby, all the drywall was bare. It just, like, it wasn't even painted. It was just, the whole place was definitely grody. But for $81 a night, that's what you get. And went to the show that night. It was fucking spectacular. Got a really good spot on the floor. I showed up early. Who was opening that first night? It was Starcrawler. Oh my god, what a fucking fun rock and roll band that was. Then the second night was J.D. McPherson, and I got there early again so I could get a spot right on the center of the floor. And then on the third night, second night too, I went and helped Ross with more merchandise. We had to do cross-loading, taking stuff out of his box truck and putting it in the back of a semi, and then organizing more boxes inside. But I was like, we had lunch in the venue again, in the backstage catering, which I was just like so excited to do. And I got a guitar pick from Jack White's Guitar Tech, one of the ones he actually uses. So that was really cool. And then I walked around for a while, went for a jog around the park. The Shady Knees, Shady Knees is another festival that's going on in Atlanta the same weekend. Shady Knees had 9 Inch Nails, Green Day, and My Morning Jacket headlining. That was in one park, Central Park in Atlanta, and then in Centennial Park was Sweetwater 420 Fest, which was Trey Anastasio Band, String Cheese Incident, and Humphreys McGee headlining. And Humphreys was playing on the Thursday. They were doing like the pre-fest party that was in the park, doing a set of all covers. That was on Thursday. So Wednesday night, when I saw that, when I went for a jog around the park, and I was like, oh my god, right, this is the festival that Humphreys is playing, and Karina's playing. I texted one of the guys from Humphreys, 2 of them, and one of them got up early enough to have breakfast with me, Ryan Stasic, the bass player. We went out and had a really nice breakfast. And then he took me back to his hotel, the Marriott Marquis in downtown Atlanta. And man, that's a fucking hotel. Wow, that was really nice. We went up chilled in his room for a little after breakfast. Then I just hung out in the lobby for like 2 hours and read a book. It was just such a beautiful lobby, and it was an overcast day. And then that night, Thursday night, rather than see the opener, Be Your Own Pet, who I had already seen in Brooklyn, who were good, but I didn't need to see them again, I went to the Humphreys show, and they left me a pass, and then they said, hey, text us when you get there. Text our tour manager, Bobby Balls. That's not his name, but that's what I call him, because he has balls the sizes of grapefruits. And he'll show them off, or he used to when he was younger. He would be happy to like take them out. I mean, they weren't grapefruits, but his balls were literally the size of like clementine oranges, each one. Fucking massive. And I wonder what his load looks like. You know what? I never asked him. Like, do you just shoot massive fucking loads with testicles that size? I'm gonna find out. So I went in the festival. It was hilarious because I went in. It was nice weather, and I was like, another buddy I know who plays in this band called We the Funk, who played on the boat last year, are going to play again this year. He texted me and was like, because I had posted something on Instagram about being in Atlanta, and he was like, "Oh my god!" Or I posted a picture of me and Stacy. And he was like, dude, you're down here for the festival? And I was like, not really. I'm here for Jack White. But he was like, yo, I'll be 3:45 right in front of this soundboard. Like, I'll fucking come rage. So I got my ticket and I went in. And literally, dude, I was there for fucking 10 seconds. I walk in the festival grounds, and one of the first things I see is a dude in shorts and a t-shirt just rolling over and over, like just rolling on the grass. And not rolling one direction and then rolling the other direction. Just rolling like he was trying to get somewhere. And his phone fell out of his pocket, and his wallet fell out of his pocket, and his friends were like picking up his stuff and just following them. And I filmed them for a minute, and I was like, God, this is where I am. And then I was like, let me go see Ollie. And then I got down towards where the soundboard was, and it was fucking mob. So I hung out way back on the lawn and just laid on the lawn for a while and watched girls play with hula hoops and stuff. And I was like, this is such a hippie festival. And then I texted Bobby and I was like, yo, I'm here, dude. And he was like, come meet me at the stage right, backstage entrance, and I'll give you a pass. So he did. And I went up on the side of the stage and I watched Humphreys. And then pretty quickly he introduced me to the guy who's the talent buyer for the festival. And that was just hilarious because he's like, this is Jake. He does Rocks Off. He's friends with Shapiro, blah, blah. And the guy goes, oh my God, I love Rocks Off, blah, blah, blah. So what's up, man? What are you doing? What shows you got coming up? And I was like, nothing really, man. And like, those are the conversations that I dread at this point in my life, and that I used to always dread. I'm just like, I'm not the networker type, as odd as that sounds. Like, I love connecting with people, but I don't love networking just on the basis of, hey, we're both in the music biz and put on concerts. But he was asking me about concerts, and I'm like, dude, I had my fucking mask on too. And I joked to a friend, I sent a selfie, I had a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask on, and my friend was like, you're really worried about getting COVID outside at a festival? And I was like, no, I just don't want anyone to recognize me. Because I knew there'd be more people from New York there, and I didn't want to... My least favorite thing about being at concerts, especially jam band concerts, where I've been in that part of the business for so long and sort of have a profile, I guess, a notoriety for just being the guy from Wetlands and stuff. That like I and the guy from Rocks Off, and I get like people want to come up and talk, and I was like, I certainly don't want that. And then of course backstage this guy's talking to me and it's like, so what are you doing this summer? I was like, I'm really not doing anything. I'm trying to do as little as possible. I'm semi-retired. I moved to Idaho. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, hey, I manage this new band Neighbor. Me and Vince, who manages Humphrey, we manage Neighbor. We should do a boat with them. And I'm like, yeah, I've actually heard good things about them. And I just nodded. And I was like, yeah, cool. But in my head, I'm like, I just told you, I'm not booking shows. I don't want to book shows. So we got through that conversation, though. And he was like, so you here all weekend? You have a pass for the weekend? And I'm like, dude, I'm just here today. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'll give you a pass for all you stay all 4 days. And in my head, I'm thinking, and see the string cheese incident? And the Trey Anastasio bit? What are you, fucking out of your mind? No way. And then later that day, my friend Jess texted me because she was working at the Shaky Knees Festival. And then she was like, hey, I'm in Atlanta. I'm going to be off in like an hour. Can we meet up? And I was like, sorry, I'm going to Jack White. And she was like, how do I get a ticket for that? And I was like, fuck, I don't know. And then I remembered I had only asked for 1 ticket for each night, but they gave me 2 the first 2 nights. So when I picked up my third night, I knew that I'd have an extra ticket. And so I got to the box office, got my ticket, put Jess's in the envelope, wrote her name on it. They did not want to do that for me. But I Jedi mind tricked them with my charm, and then by the time I got in, because it was Thursday, it was the fullest night. I got in right before Jack started playing. I was kind of like on the outskirts of the floor, way over to the left. But they take your phones away at Jack shows. Well, they don't take them away; they put them in the pouch, so you can't use them once you're inside the venue. Well, I guess you can use them. You can go to a room that's out in the lobby, and they'll unlock your phone, and you can use it there if you need to communicate with people. But I wasn't. I was like, I told Jess, I'm going right in, and I was like, I'm gonna try to be in the middle of the floor by the soundboard. But she ended up finding me like halfway through the show, and we had a great time. And then I walked her most of the way back to her hotel because it was midnight and very sketchy people out on the streets, and I wanted to make sure she got back safe. And I walked her like 2/3 of the way to her hotel, and we got past the bad part of downtown Atlanta, and then she was like, "I got it from here. It's fucking, it's not sketchy anymore." And I was like, "Okay." And then I came back to Idaho, and I'm in Idaho, and I gotta say, those 3 fucking shows though down there at the Tabernacle. I was curious if how much he was gonna change up the set list. Like I was wondering if he was gonna go for like 3 shows of no repeats, but he didn't. He played it as if it were just 3 shows in a row on the tour, which still means that there weren't a lot of repeats. But he played the first 2 songs the same every night, which are the first 2 songs from the new record, and then shot off from there and played all sorts of White Stripes covers, old blues covers, played some Iggy Pop, some Blind Willie McTell, was changing the lyrics for some of the songs to incorporate Atlanta in it, and it was just beautiful. And the stage was smaller, so they didn't have all the big curtains and the light rigs that moved up and down, but they did have the big video wall, but it all looked fucking gorgeous, and it sounded tremendous. And I don't know if it was the shape of the venue or how small it was compared to all the other ones. It was 2,500 people, which was by far the smallest place I had seen him in. The Anthem was 6,000. Barclays was obviously huge. The other arena was huge. The Masonic Temple was 5,000 people. This is 2,500. And the fucking roars from the crowd at the end of every song, and when he finished the set, and when we were waiting for an encore, and after the encore, just like thunderous ovations. The shows were just fucking incredible. And I won't lie, I think that's part of why I don't want to go work at the tavern this year. Because I want to go see him play more shows. And I've been giving a lot of thought to if I was going to go back to work at the tavern. And I think the last time I was talked to you guys on this podcast, I had talked to the new owner, and he made me feel somewhat comfortable about going back to work there. But still, something doesn't sit right with me about it. Not necessarily because of him. Just like I spoke to with Lorraine on Thursday afternoon before I went to the show Thursday night, and she had been leaning towards. She was the former owner, then this new guy bought it, and she was going to stay on and manage it for the whole summer, manage and work, so things wouldn't have changed that much. And then on Thursday, she told me she wasn't going to go back, and that she decided she didn't want to manage it for somebody else, which I totally understand. If you've owned the business for 20 years, someone else buys it, like, are you going to just want to stay on? And she decided she didn't, and I was on a call with her on speaker with a couple of other ladies from the town, and I don't think the vibe's going to be the same if I go back. I think it's going to be very different, and I think certain people that I loved serving all summer won't go there. They'll go to the other bar now because they're kind of mad about it's just like little internal town politics. But I just started thinking like, is it going to be the same? Well, no. And I started thinking about like, well, how much money did I make there last summer? When I added it up, I was like, I don't know, maybe 12 grand, maybe 15, somewhere between there. But I was getting half of the profits of all the merchandise because when I showed up, they didn't have any merchandise. Now Josh is going to run all his own merchandise, so I'd say a third of it was from all the merch sales we had, which I won't be privy to this year. And I wouldn't. I was gonna live just in the forest all summer, and like that's cool. And that was actually kind of the part I was looking forward to the most. But I'm like if it's not gonna be the coolest place in town, and not the coolest place. It's one of only 2 places in town. But if it's just not going to be, I just felt like without Lorin there, it was just her and I, literally the only 2 employees of the place last summer, and we just did everything. Like she she would whine a little and tell me the grill wasn't clean enough, or a couple of times I worked so late and was so tired I didn't take out the trash at the end of the night. Um, and then I came in the next morning for the breakfast shift, and she would like yell at me, but it was like a fun yelling at me. And she also realized pretty quickly that I was headstrong too, and I was like, "Yeah, I didn't fucking take out the trash last night, but I'm here at I fucking worked till 2 o'clock in the morning, and I needed to go home and sleep, and I was cross-eyed, and it's 7:30. We don't open till 8, and I'm here to take out the trash. So leave me the fuck alone." And then she'd be like, "You didn't clean the grill good enough," and I'm like, "Well, I don't clean grills good, you know. That's just not one of the things I do." And that's something you can only get away with when you have a certain type of boss. If you have another type of boss, um, that those kind of excuses won't cut it. And anybody who knows me personally, and if you know me just from listening to this podcast, you probably can figure out that I do not do things that I don't want to do. And I certainly won't do things just because a boss tells me to. I just march to the beat of my own drum, and that's just the reality. And like, could I suck it up? Yes. But do I need to? No. And do I want to do something that's not, that I'm not 100% my heart's in? I don't think so. And also, like, the way I found Yellow Pine and got there just by mistake, it was such a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross. And it was like the type of thing, it was like lightning in a bottle, and you can't recapture that. And I don't think if I went back there for the summer again, I don't think I would be able to recapture that. And I think it would feel more like a job. And sure, I'm sure it would be fun at points, but then I'm also like, last summer there wasn't much going on. There wasn't anywhere I really wanted to go because of COVID. I wasn't trying to like get on any planes. I wasn't trying to like go see shows. I didn't really care about seeing shows. But now I'm kind of like, a lot of the things I thought I was going to do last summer, I didn't get to do. I didn't get to ride my motorcycle around too much. I only rode on my few days off, so you couldn't get that far away from the tavern before I had to come right back again. And I want to go to Glacier National Park, and I want to go to Olympia National Park, and I want to explore the Oregon and Washington coast some more. And I want to go see Jack White and Bill Burr in Las Vegas over Memorial Day weekend, and then I want to go see 2 more nights of Jack White in Los Angeles. And we just announced today, I'm doing 2 nights with the Screaming Cheetah Wheelies at the Gramercy Theater in New York. And that's a band I used to work with a lot at Wetlands, and I've worked with their singer, who's become a dear friend of mine over the years, Mike Farris. I actually helped him get sober, maybe like, Jesus, 15 years ago or something now. At this point, it must be. And like, the Wheelies are coming back, and they're doing 2 nights at the Gramercy, and I'm going to make some decent money on those. And I'm like, well, I couldn't just be like flying back to New York. I mean, I could, obviously, I could do whatever I want, but like, it wouldn't be right to go back to work and be like, hey, I want to be back in New York for the Murphy's Law show, and I want to be back for the Wheelie shows, and I want to be back for the Slackers. And like, it's not even like, it's a 5 hour ride from Yellow Pine to Boise. So that kind of takes a whole day. And then if my plane lands at noon, like, I'm not even going to get back to work for my shift in time, you know? And then my plane's not going to land at noon because you got to take connecting flights. So I'm like, every day it's like 2.5 full days of travel to get to and from New York from Yellow Pine. So I think right now, you know, never say never, but I think I'm leaning towards not going back to work there for the summer again. And one of the things I was thinking of was like, okay, how much money did I make there? And I was like, all right, what did I make? 10, 12, 15 grand. I honestly don't know. I was like, there's other ways I can make that money because we're going to have more boat cruises this year than we did last year. And I still didn't, you know, I'm not going to go full on, but I just had 2 cruises this past weekend. I have 3 next weekend. So I'm filling up the coffers a little bit again with the loot. And, like, I'm not going to starve if I don't go to work there. And I just want to adventure. And I realized I made some different notes for this week. And one of them was a note I made, something I've been thinking about, but I also texted to a buddy. What's up, Maxie Poo? Who's been going through some romantic travails. And I wrote, I've been thinking a lot lately in regards to Yellow Pine, but it goes for so much more in life and love about how new opportunities don't present themselves until you let go of the old ones. Probably something I'll get into on the podcast tomorrow. And that's what I'm getting into now. And it's like, why did I end up in Yellow Pine? It's because I didn't have anywhere to be, and I just let the universe guide me, and my spirit guided me to Yellow Pine. And then when the opportunity arose to work there, didn't even arise, I kind of made it happen. I manifested that opportunity. There wasn't a help wanted sign. It was just from being there for the one day when I first got there and then the 3 days when I went back to camp. It just kind of, I was like, hey, I would like to work here. And I asked Lorraine if she would hire me. And she was like, you're crazy for wanting to work here. But yeah, okay, I'll hire you. And it happened. And it just happened like that. And that kind of shit's not going to happen if I stay in Yellow Pine. Like, maybe I'll find another job. And also, like, being a bartender is not necessarily something I want to do. It's something I've never done before in my life. And I happen to be very good at it. And that feels good to know that I can get that job anytime I want. So if I end up riding my motorcycle through some weird town again and seeing another help wanted sign or a situation presents itself, maybe I'll stop and work for a while. Or maybe I won't, or maybe something else will happen. Who knows? But if I just go back to Yellow Pine and try to recapture that glory, it's almost like I was like a football star. You know, those guys in high school who, like, they'll still tell you about the touchdown they scored their senior year and it was the best summer of their life. And they're just trying to revisit those glory days, as Bruce Springsteen says. Like, do I want to just revisit my glory time in Yellow Pine? No. Like, I made a lot of friends there. I like it there. Will I go back there? Probably. Probably go back there over the summer and stay for a little while. Could I see myself? I could actually see myself at a certain point maybe spending more time there, you know, and maybe once I build up some real money, like, would I buy a little cottage there? Maybe, you know, like, I really love it there, but I don't want to go back under these conditions. I don't think. And I am just, I was, my friend Christine back in New York one day, I said to her, I was like, hey, Christine, I've been looking up definitions online. I'm trying to figure out what I am. And she was like, literally, she just looked at me and went, oh boy, okay, what? And I was like, I don't know, am I a vagabond or a nomad? And we started looking up definitions, and we look up like drifter, vagabond, nomad. I think there was another word we looked up that they're all basically similar. Vagabond really seems to be a word for, there's a lot of different definitions you can find. So, but nomad was sort of more of a tribe of people, a collection of people who move around, almost like gypsies. And vagabond is just kind of like one person who moves around and doesn't have a job or a set address. And I mean, I kind of have a set address. Like, I have the Rocks Off. Technically, we have like our office. We share it with Relics and Pete Shapiro. Like, that's where all our business mail goes and stuff. And I have a PO box in Yellow Pine, and you know. But do I have a physical address? No. Do I have a job? I mean, kinda. So I guess I'm not really just a vagabond or a drifter, but I guess nomad is the word that sticks. But really, I'm just kind of like Metallica said. I'm just a guy who goes wherever I may roam, and I think that's what I was meant to do. I don't think I was meant to settle down in Yellow Pine or in New York or in California or anywhere else that I've lived before. I think the idea is to keep moving for now, and then I think probably settle down in California for the winter next year, or at least base myself out of my buddy's house in Topanga, which I think will be lovely and awesome. But even so, I imagine that, like, I'm not just gonna stay in Topanga for the entire winter. Like, and I did that in Yellow Pine. You know, I went there for a whole summer. I fucking slayed it for the summer. I literally did live out in the woods, um, taking baths in the river every day. You know, like, literally. And then I fucking did it over the winter, and I lived in probably one of the most secluded towns in America. Basically snowed in all winter, and it's like I did it to its max, and I did it knowing that, like, I might never have this opportunity again, so I'm going to take it while I have it. And, like, will I have it again? Sure. I could go back there and work all summer, and I could probably stay there another winter, but I'm a Rolling Stone, man. I gather no moss, you know? I got to stay on the move. I gotta just keep going. Um, so yeah, it looks like I'll probably spend most of the summer riding around and then come back to New York when I need to for certain shows. Probably come back, you know, I'll be back in May for a few days for those shows, and then I'm going to pop right back out. So tomorrow I'm going to get my motorcycle. I got to Boise on Friday, and I'm staying in this house that it's a buddy of mine from up in Yellow Pine. He's working, he does 7 days on and 7 days off working for like the Fish and Wild Game. So he's in Yellow Pine now. His house was empty. I stayed in it once before. He said I could stay in it now. So I got to Boise on Friday, and I was just kind of exhausted from the Jack shows, I guess. and it's cold and rainy, and I got here on Friday, so I couldn't get the bus to where my bike is until Saturday, but the shop isn't open on Saturday and Sunday, and I asked the guy if he'd come in specifically for me, and he was like, no, I got plans with my wife and kid, and I was like, yeah, okay, cool, no problem, I'll be up on Monday. And Monday, which I guess is today when I'm recording this, it's fucking cold and rainy up there, and tomorrow morning it's going to be cold and rainy, but I'm going to get the bus tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. out of Boise up to Grangeville, 4.5 hours north, and then I'm going to get on my motorcycle and ride 4.5 hours south back here to Boise. Probably stop in and see Greg and Shanti. And I actually went up to McCall yesterday because originally my plan was I was going to take the bus up to McCall on Saturday. My friend Dan, the man who owns the farm that I worked on last year, he was going to pick me up at the bus station, bring me to Greg and Shanti's house. Then I was going to stay there for 2 days, and then they were going to take me to the bus station because I had to get my helmet and my riding gear. Um, but I decided, I was like, oh, I have this great house to stay in, so I rented a car yesterday for $50 and drove up to all the way up to McCall, got all my motorcycle gear, brought it back here, stopped at Dan and Patsy's farm, had lunch with them. It's very lovely. Uh, yeah, whew, God, that sounds exhausting just talking about it. It was 2.5 hours each way. Um, but I did that yesterday, and then I got back and I went for a nice run yesterday along the river in Boise. And then today I got up and I did a bunch of work regarding the Screaming Cheetah Wheelie shows, and I'm working on a couple other shows that we're going to announce next week with the Pie Tasters and the Slackers, and we're going to be announcing Murphy's Law soon. Um, and I got Willie Nile that we're announcing this week, and it's like, oh my God, well, I'm kind of a concert promoter again, and it's like, it's not so bad. Um, Parts of it, but these are all bands for the most part that I've worked with forever. Willie Nile isn't, but I'm stoked that we're doing that show, especially because it's risk free for me, just paying a percentage. Um, and yeah, I think like, you know, again, like when I was going crazy and out there riding around on my motorcycle, I was looking for like I was looking for a place to die. I was looking for a place to kill myself. And I wasn't present a lot of the time. I mean, I was present in the moment, but I wasn't making the most of riding around. I wasn't meeting people, I wasn't talking to people. The few times I talked to people was to challenge them to fights in bars, um when I was going crazy, and like someone had come over and try to talk to me. I'd like go to a bar after a long day of motorcycle riding, and I'd be like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, they'd be like, hey man, where are you from? And I'd be like, leave me the fuck alone. I'd be like, whoa, you don't have to be hostile. I'd be like, well, you don't have to talk to me. Shit like that. Um, but then summer of 2020, like, so all that riding I did that year and a half when I was really going crazy and suicidal, like when I was on my bike, I was present in those moments, but when I got off my bike, I wasn't present, and I did very little hiking, did very little camping back then. I was staying mostly in motels then, because the only thing that made me feel good was being on my bike. But I wasn't getting to know towns, I wasn't meeting people, talking to people. Then 2020, when I took off on my bike, I was like all over the place, and I was really present, and I was really camping deep out into the woods and going on hikes and really enjoying the nature, but I wasn't talking to too many people, because it was first summer of COVID. Then last year, when I would go out on trips out from Yellow Pine, I was talking to tons of people in Yellow Pine, meeting all sorts of different cool people. Then when I would take my bike around, I would talk to more people and meet cool people, and that's what I want to do this summer. I want to just continue that spirited adventure. And the idea was, and that I've said before to friends and stuff, and maybe on here, but the idea was that in 2018 and 2019, I was riding and looking for a place to die. In 2020, I was looking for a place to live. And I ended up finding it in McCall, and then I ended up finding it in 2021 out in Yellow Pine. And I wanna continue that rather than just rest on the laurels of Yellow Pine and be like, okay, I can go back there. There's more adventure for me out there in the world, and I gotta put my antenna up. And I've gotta completely rid the Yellow Pine thing for me, or that job, and then just move out and once again be without a net, which sounds exciting to me right now in this moment when I'm talking about it, but it's definitely a situation where it's like it's a little frightening. And earlier today I was a little frightened about oh fuck, well yeah, tomorrow I gotta go get my bike, and it's gonna be cold and it might be rainy for the first bunch of my ride back to Boise. Weather's gonna be a little unpredictable, as it is up in these mountains, and it might fucking like just this afternoon. Um, I went out to the post office to mail something out, and it was beautiful out, and I put on my running shorts and a hoodie and a t-shirt, and I went to the post office, and then I swung by REI because I wanted to check something out. Um, Sorry, these tent stakes, because I long story. Does It's not a good story. But I went to REI, and then I came out of REI, and it had turned from a beautifully sunny day to literally fucking gray clouds everywhere. The wind had picked up, and then before I even made it to my car, it started raining. And then as soon as I got in my car, a fucking massive thunderstorm, thunder booms, and then it was like fucking torrential downpour rain for like 2 hours. And I hope I don't get caught in that tomorrow. But if I do, I'll stop at a motel or I'll stop in McCall. But I'm going to leave most of my stuff here and just take my helmet and my riding gear and my rain gear up to get my bike. And I'm hopefully going to make it back here tomorrow. Then I'm going to wake up Wednesday and I'm going to ride down to West Wendover, Nevada, which is right on the border of there's Wendover, Utah and West Wendover, Nevada. And those are the towns where West Wendover, because it's Nevada, has casinos in it. And that's where all the hotels and motels are. So I think I'm going to stay there. And then in Wendover, just over the state line, is where the Great Bonneville Salt Flats are. And I visited those in 2020, and they're fucking magical. So I'm going to go rip around out there on my bike. And if you don't know about the Great Bonneville Salt Flats, it's just hard packed salt flats that go on forever, for as far as the eye can see. And you can just people that's where they go to test like vehicles for land speed records and stuff. That's where Chuck Yeager set the land speed record, because it's just hard compacted salt and it's flat in every direction. So I'm gonna go tear around on my motorcycle out there and set up my little folding chair and read a book out there. And then I'm gonna make my way to Salt Lake City for the Supercross uh, season finale. The championship that usually it's the last race of the season, of the Supercross season, which starts every year in January and then goes into the first weekend of May. And the championship round was usually in Vegas, but this year it's in Salt Lake, and I didn't even realize that until the other day. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go. And I'm going to hook up with a buddy in Salt Lake who moved there during the pandemic from New York. I'm going to hang out with him for a few days. We're going to go to the Supercross race, and it is the finale of the season. And Eli Tomac actually clinched because of the way they do it in points. He clinched the championship this year, but the second and third place spots are up. You know, the rest of the spots are up for grabs, so it still should be an exciting race. And never been to a season finale. I've been going to Supercross races since like 2002. It was watching Supercross and watching all those. There were these video series called the Crusty Demons of Dirt that came out in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. It was all about motocross and supercross riding and guys doing crazy stunts on their dirt bikes. That watching those videos is what made me actually buy my first motorcycle and made me go to a motocross track for lessons and motocross school, basically, where I think I've talked about that I did a whole episode about my involvement with motorcycles. I think that was like April 2020. No, April 2021. If you want to go back in the archives, I did a whole episode about my history with motorcycle riding, and there's a great story about how I took a bike that was not made to be on a motocross track and went to motocross school, 2-day motocross school, and almost killed myself multiple times. And at the end of the day, the first day, the all the instructors came up to me, and I had crashed so many times. And at the end of the first day, they came over to me and they were like, when you showed up here on that bike, we were like taking bets. Like, there's no way this guy's going to make it through a fucking day on this track. They're like, we've never seen a bike with license plates make it around this track, not even once. And you've been out here fucking raging all day. They're like, you got more balls than brains, kids, but we applaud you for like not giving up. That was like great. So I'm stoked to go to Supercross. And then after that, I don't know, I've got a few days to ride around, or I might go collect my belongings from Yellow Pine. Though I'm you know, after everything I just said, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go back to work there for another summer. But I might too, because you know, who knows? The beauty is keeping my options open. But at a certain point, before Memorial Day, which is kind of the beginning of the season, I'm gonna have to make up my mind and actually tell the new owner of the tavern whether I'm working or not. Because right now he thinks I'm working, and I don't want to be a dick and leave him totally in the lurch. But I also don't want to tell him that I'm not working too long before I decide, or too long before I go get my stuff because I left all my belongings in the tavern. Most importantly, my turntable and all my records, and then I have a bunch of clothes and books and all my paintings and art supplies are in there. So that's kind of the stuff that I really want to get out of there. Um, uh, so I'll have to figure that out, and then I'll have to rent a minivan or pickup truck or something and go get my shit. Um, and then figure out what to do with it. Put it in storage in Boise, maybe. Or maybe take it down into Panga. I don't know. I don't know, man. The world is my oyster. Um, and and I get into something a little more philosophical here. I know I'm well over an hour, but a couple of weeks ago I did a shorter podcast, and I talked about on there. I was like, man, I'm sorry I didn't get to an hour for you. And Paul Hanley, shout out to my Yankee going buddy Paul Hanley, my marathon man. Um, he sent me a text message the next morning when he listened to the episode. He was like, "Don't you fucking worry about how long your podcast is. Like, it's every time you do a podcast, it should just be as long as it needs to be, as long as you feel like talking. If you don't go an hour, you don't owe any of us an hour. Just whatever you're feeling, man." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And now I'm over an hour, I guess, and haven't run out of things to say. Um, so I was listening to Michael Singer, his podcast yesterday, and he was talking about the noble truths of Buddhism, right? And the first noble truth is all of life is suffering, um, and the second noble truth is the cause of suffering is desire, and all of life is suffering because everyone makes up the way they want things to be, and if things aren't that way, then you're suffering because your brain decided, like, I want things to be this way, and if they're not that way, then that's where the suffering comes from. And the the cause of suffering is desire, right? The cause of suffering is preference. You make up how you want something to be, and how you think it should be in your own brain, and then if it's not like that, you're going to feel suffering. And and like that, it's just so true, right? Because when a relationship ends, like, there's that old adage of, like, don't be sad that it's over, but be happy that it happened, right? Because if it's over, then why do you want it to still exist, right? Whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a relationship with a town, whether it's a relationship with a job, like, if I leave Yellow Pine, then I'm not going to be sad that Josh bought the tavern and it made me not want to go back and work there. It's like, yeah, would I have loved to have been back there? Sure. But now I'm kind of looking at the way things are, which the way things are right now happened all without any of my input. I didn't own the tavern. I wasn't trying to buy the tavern. And if I was trying to buy it and he bought it instead, maybe I'd be bummed out. But once he's bought it, he's bought it. You can't change the past. And what's the other phrase is, like, no amount of worrying can change the future, and no amount of regret can change the past. And, like, so right now I'm just in the very enviable position of, like, what do I want to do? Okay, if I don't want to do that, I'm going to do this. What's this? I literally don't know what this is. What do I want it to be? I don't even know. And if I don't decide what I want it to be, then I won't suffer when I realize it's not that. So I'm just going to be open to the universe and let it dictate to me what's going on. And sure, right now my plan is to move to Topanga for the fall because I want to be in a warm place with sunshine um, all of next year. And like, I don't want to own a car again. That's for sure. I don't think I want to be in a winter town. Like, I don't. I made the most of being in a winter town for 2 years with skiing and cross country skiing and snowshoeing and all that shit. But, like, when I last saw Greg and Shanti in March, I brought my skis back to them. My cross country skis and snowshoes are still up in Yellow Pine, but I brought them my skis, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to take them to the sports exchange and sell them, I guess. And they were like, "Do you need the money for them?" And I was like, "No, not really, because I, like, yeah, well, sure. I mean, the skis and boots and poles and stuff cost me $170 used. So if I resell them, what may I sell them for 120, and then by the time I split it with the sports exchange, whatever their commission is, who knows? But anyway, Greg and Shanti were like, if you don't need the money, how would you feel about maybe just donating them to the compound? Um, which is what we sort of named their property, and they took to it because started calling they used to call it their compound, and then I started calling McCall, and then I was like, so this is the compound. So Shanti was like, would you consider donating them to the compound? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, that way when we have guests and visitors come, like they could just get their own cross country boots and then just use your skis, or maybe they'll fit in your boots. And same with the skis and stuff. Like if we have someone come and visit who just happens to be your size, then they can use your skis. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I was like, I don't know where else I'm going to want to go skiing because I don't think I'm going to want to live in a cold weather town again. So if I do want to go skiing again, I would come up to McCall to do it, and then I'll have my own skis there. So that's pretty damn cool. I don't even know how I got off on that little tangent. Oh, it's just that I got, I don't know, yeah, shit. He's talking about having to get my stuff back there. I don't know. It don't even matter though. What matters is that I want to be in places that are warm, and whether I end up in Topanga next winter or New Orleans, which is definitely on my mind, or the Florida Keys, even possibly. I'm sure I could get a good bartending job down there and make quite a bit of money and probably find a nice fucking patch of land to camp on. We're going down to Mexico, Brazil, South America, Thailand, Burma, Myanmar for a winter. I don't know, or maybe do a month in each. Who knows, man? I know I got more adventuring to do. I'm meant to wander. I am not meant to be in one place for too long. That's what I'm figuring out, especially now at this point in my life. You know, I'm closing in on 50. There's a note I made about that too. But I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't recall if I talked about that on the podcast here, but I have been thinking a lot about how, like, you know, I'm getting close to 50. I'll be 50 next summer. And I'm not too stressed about turning 50, but I'm just thinking about, like, okay, then you start to reflect on, like, how many more years of able-bodied living do I have? And pretty sure I did talk about this, but yeah, I want to make the most of those years because, like, at a certain point, I'm gonna want to settle down, and I'm gonna get tired of roaming, um, and then I'm gonna settle down, and then I'll figure out where I want to settle. But until then, I'm just gonna be on the move, yo, and I'll stay as long as I belong in one place. And I think I did that in Yellow Pine. Is how I feel right now in this day, in this moment, May 2nd, the year of the Lord. May 4th is rapidly approaching, which is Dick Dale's birthday. And, Jesus, I forget what year he was born. I think he was born in 1937. So that would have made this year his 85th birthday. I'll post something on Instagram about it on Thursday, I'm sure. Wednesday. His birthday. The 4th? Is today the 2nd? Yeah, whatever. Um, it's Tuesdays with Jakey, so technically, if you're listening to this, it's May 3rd. But yeah, even Dick Dale, like, that guy was fucking. He was very functional until he wasn't, until he got rectal cancer. You know, that guy was just on the move all the time, on tour, you know, ripping up stages. And, like, I want to rip up the stage of life with the same vigor that Dick Dale ripped up the stages of nightclubs and theaters with his guitar. I want to continue to rip up the stages of life and keep working on my book, keep working on more writing, and keep working on more riding, and ride my motorcycle for as long and as hard and as far as I can, um, until I can't do it anymore. And why would I just tie myself down to one place, especially in the summertime when it's prime riding time? If I'm going to settle down in one place for a season, I should do that in the winter where the weather is not so good for riding. And if I could go get a bartending job in any of a million places if that's what I want to do. Also considering maybe working on some tours, maybe seeing if I could end up with a tour manager job somehow, or work on some festivals. I really do like being around music. I learned that, especially helping Ross with his merchandise and being at that festival a few weeks ago, 5 weeks ago now, that I worked in Boise. And I realized, like, what I really like is being in that situation where I'm not worried about anything except what I'm worried about, right? Like with Ross, it was just helping moving merch boxes around. When I did the festival, it was just doing the artist check-in. It didn't matter to me if there weren't enough porta potties, or if there was a problem with the wristband scan or any of that. I was like, I'm just doing artist check-in. And that's what I want to do more of that, because I don't want to want to get too caught up into running my own business again. Even though I was talking to DJ today from Catsbury Park, my old partner in the cat convention, and he's out on the Coldplay tour right now, and he's got one job on that tour, and it's to cover all the seats that are behind the stage that aren't being used because of the stage production. He covers them with black tarps, or black like fabrics. Um, they're called dead seats. He just covers the dead seats. That's his fucking job in these huge stadiums every day. And he was talking about how he loves it because when he's back in Asbury, he's still running Catsbury Park, and how stressful that all is. But when he leaves, Jamie takes over. She's doing the work, and then they have another employee that they hired to help pick up the slack when DJ's not around. And DJ's like, I'm the last man on the totem pole out on this Coldplay tour. I just fucking cover the seats, and that's it. And like I have one job to do, and I do it, and it takes me all day, and I get it done, and then the next day the show happens, and the day after that I fucking take all the fabric off and fold it back up and put it in its cases, and it gets pushed onto a truck, and then I see it at the next show. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff I'd like to do. So still be around music, and I know how to function in that world very easily. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA at this point. I can work at a festival, and I know exactly how to act and treat people, and I know how to like negotiate egos and shit like that. So I want to do more shit like that and just get paid to do the work and then leave and not be dealing with on sales and stressing about negotiating guarantees and I gotta fucking make sure this is staffed and not. And it's like, that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of mental energy and expenditure that I don't really want. Because like I said, I'm just a human being. I'm just a human, being. I talked about that on my last podcast, and I actually made a shirt that says that. And you can get that. What good timing. You can pick up that shirt at rocksoftthreads.threadless.com. The link is in the episode to this description, whether or not you're watching it on YouTube. That's you out there. Or if you're listening to it, you might be listening to it on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Pandora or Amazon or Google Podcasts or God knows where else. I don't even know where this podcast is available. I know I upload it to one place, which is Liberated Syndication, and they're a podcast host provider, and I upload it there, and I checked every box. They make it available everywhere, and if you're listening on Deezer or Stitcher, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you have an iPhone? Or don't you have Spotify or Apple Music? Just listen to it on those things. Whatever, man. Just wherever you're listening. It'll be in the episode description. It should be. But if it's not, that's rocksoftthreads.threadless.com. If you want to help keep the wolves from my door and make me feel better about riding around on a motorcycle with $4.50 gallons of gas, you can always feel free to buy a t-shirt, buy all sorts of stuff from that site. I tell you to buy a coloring book, but honestly, the last person who bought one, it took me forever to mail them out, and I only have 2 with me right now. So if you want to buy one, I have 2 left. Then I'm going to take those down off the site until I'm back in one place where I can mail coloring books out again. So yeah, you go to rocksoft.bigcartel.com, but don't, because the stuff that's on that site, I have to mail out myself, and I don't know where I'm going to be for the next bunch of time. Actually, I'll be back in New York in 10 days. And I have more coloring books there. So if you want to order coloring books, order coloring books. I still have like 100 of them I'm trying to fucking get rid of. I keep thinking I should just put them in the trash. But I don't want to put them in the trash. I want to sell them. That's why I discounted them so deeply. I think they're like 3 for $10 now. You're 3 coloring books, you know what I mean? They're great stocking stuffers. We got fucking... Just buy them. Keep them on hand. Somebody's going to need something. Somebody's going to need a pick-me-up. Buy them from me. When you see someone posting that they're in distress, reach out to them in a real, loving, genuine way. But then also put a coloring book in the mail to them. I bet it'll make them feel better. You even put a little pack of colored pencils in there, too. I gotta tell you, colored pencils, way better way to use coloring books than crayons. You get much more nuance that way. But anyway, yeah. Like I'm saying, you know what I mean? I'm quitting my job again. And I got some shows coming up, but, you know, I never get tired of looking at my phone and being like, oh, someone just Venmo'd you some money. Stucky, who I hadn't heard from in a while, sent me $5 yesterday for the last episode, and also made a very generous offer. Sent me pictures of this fucking cool ass house that he owns in West Virginia, and it was like, if you ever want to get away for a few months in a fucking West Virginia, you can come down and use this house. which is a fucking amazing gesture and opportunity. And I have a feeling I'm going to take them up on it. Definitely, there's something about the area of West Virginia, North Carolina, Northern Georgia, South Carolina. I don't know what that all is. The Appalachians, I guess. Something about that area that really calls to me, even though I've spent very little time there. But the few times I've been through there and on the Blue Ridge Parkway, it's fucking spectacular. And of course, I watched that show Justified, and it made me want to move to Harlan County, Kentucky. So at some point in my future, like I want to go live in all these places. I want to experience all these different things. So yeah, eventually I'm sure I'll end up in West Virginia. I want to end up in Louisiana. I really would like to work in Mississippi, maybe at a blues bar in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the crossroads are, where Robert Johnson supposedly sold his soul to the devil. I'd like to spend a winter in Hawaii. I'd like to spend a summer in Alaska. Maybe I'll even, fuck it, should I go up to Alaska? I don't think so. But maybe if I went up to Alaska, I could fly from like Anchorage to New York City for my shows. I should look at what flights cost on Alaska Airlines. Maybe I'll ride my motorcycle to Alaska this summer. Fuck. I can literally do whatever I want. And that, man, when I'm down, I'm going to record the end of this part of the podcast and put it on a little audio note and file for me to be able to go to whenever I fucking get caught up in that Buddhist thing of suffering coming from desire. I got to remember that, like, I'm always my happiest when I don't know what's happening, even though that's also when I'm sometimes at my most anxious. But, like, the world is really in front of me. I can go wherever I want. When I get on my motorcycle, I kind of have to be in Salt Lake next week because that's where I got my flight booked to go back to New York. But, like, do I have to go to the motorcycle races with Jordan? No. Do I want to? Yes. But if something pops up, maybe I might meet the man or woman of my dreams out there in the Bonneville Salt Flats, and I might want to follow them to a different edge of the earth. Who knows what's going to happen? And I don't really have to be anywhere. I don't even have to be at my own shows next week. So I can literally do whatever the fuck I want. And that, my friends, is a blessing. And Jesus, man, I'm so glad I don't have kids. Because, people who have kids, I gotta say, I'm so fucking glad I don't have children. But, the people I know who have kids who always wanted kids, like, they're stoked. And the people I know who had kids because they thought it was kind of the thing they should do, or their partner was like, yeah, let's have kids. Yeah, that's what you do now, right? We got married, let's have kids. They wish they hadn't. They really do. Most of them will admit it to me, the ones who are closest to me. Some of them won't, but you can just see it. You know what I mean? Like, Bill Burr used to have a routine where he would say, whenever you ask someone with kids, how's it going with your kids? They act like they have like the worst stomach pain. They're like, it's great. If you were the type of person who really wanted to have a kid, then it's probably the best thing in life that could have happened to you, right? And your life wouldn't have been complete without them. Me, on the other hand, if I had a kid, I'd be so bummed out. Unless I had a kid when I was fucking 20, and now he was 28 years old. But still, I'd be like, I don't fucking worry. Like, nah. I am so happy that I can just literally do whatever I want. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And for this summer, I think that means just riding around, figuring out what the next fucking thing I want to do is. And until I figure that out, I'm going to go sleep in the woods, and I'm going to drink out of streams, and I'm going to take my little shovel and dig a hole and squat down and shit in it, and then cover it back up with dirt. Like a real human being. You know what I'm saying? See how it keeps coming back around to that? I just want to be a human being. I don't want to be on the hamster wheel of capitalism. I got to make enough money to get by. But someday, if this could be my only job, this podcast, man, that'd be fucking great. And writing. And I've got a lot of different writing done for the book, but I've also got other writing stuff that I've been working on that it definitely isn't going to go in the book, and I'm trying to figure out how and when I'm going to want to share that. I'm going to start putting that out in some sort of way. Substack, Patreon, just on my website, on Jake Rocks Off. I can't figure out how to do that. Like, do I want to put it on a Substack and commit to that platform? Do I want to go to Patreon and commit to that? Do I want people? I struggle. You know what? I struggle. I have a lot of this writing. I don't want to do bonus podcasts for people who pay more money. And I know that's kind of like the whole idea of these things is like, well, you could do your regular podcast for free, and then if someone pays $10 a month, then they get extra. But I'd kind of like, I would prefer to just put all my stuff out there and maybe record more podcasts, maybe less. I know I got to get better at being weekly. And Paul Hanley would tell me I don't have to do anything, but like there is a sort of commitment that we've made here. There's a unspoken commitment that if you're listening to this and I'm providing it, and if you like it as part of your life, then like I know there's not many podcasts I listen to every week, and it's only Bill Burr, and most weeks I listen to the Co-Main Event podcast, which is an MMA podcast, and I guess that's really it. And then I listen to like some episodes of other ones. But over the years, I've had different podcasts that I have listened to every week. And I know I get bummed out when, if I'm following something every week and I expect like, hey, this thing comes out on Bill Burr does his Mondays and his Thursday podcasts. It's like, I know I feel bad that I went 3 weeks. I went a week here. And then I think a couple of weeks ago, I went another week without doing one. Then those 6 weeks I went back in the winter. I needed that break. I really did. But I promise I'll be better. Anyway, if I am going to record more episodes, I have that Steve Pultz episode. I should put that out this Friday because I'm going to be with good internet. Yes, this week we're going to have a Friday with friends. I'm going to put that Steve Pultz episode out. I wonder if I should go back and listen to it. Nah, why bother? I already did it. You can listen to it, though. That's why I'm going to put it out. But, yeah. Anyway, man, what a dream it would be if eventually, like, enough people made enough donations where like all I had to do was go around and have fun and then share my thoughts and ideas and writings with people. That's my dream job, is having no other job than that. Though I do have a hustle bone in my body, right? So I'm always going to be, coming up with t-shirts or coloring books, or I will want to stop and be like, I will want to work at a festival for social interaction and reasons like I like being part of teamwork and stuff like that. But I'd rather do that because I want to, not because I have to. And I'm convinced that can't happen. Because fuck man, over the last 30 years I've built up a lot of goodwill and karma, and I've been very generous to not just my friends but strangers and just all sorts of people. And I'm very stoked and honored that a lot of that's been coming back to me. I don't take the donations lightly when you do send them, and if you don't send them, I don't really care. Like, that's totally up to you. And that's what I'm thinking about. Like, I don't want to make it so I don't want to create things and put them behind a paywall. That seems weird. But I keep struggling with, like, I have a bunch of writing saved up that I want to share, but I'm trying to figure out like a way to share it that it would like be the best way to get it out there to people. And honestly, like, yeah, I want to maximize the value of that stuff because I do want people to pay for it, but only if they want to. Like, I know now that when somebody sends me money because they're listening to this podcast, they're doing it because they're like, I enjoy what this guy's giving me through his podcast and his energy, or I don't know, whatever it is, my insights, my fucking wisdom. But I love that the money comes in just because people want to give it to me, not because I say, hey, if you want to read this or if you want to hear this, then you have to pay this much for it. And maybe that's stupid, but I've always like followed my own gut, and I've always been ahead of the curve with so many different things that I think the best thing to do is probably just give it all away for free. Not the books, of course. That I plan on. You're gonna make people pay for that. But I'm talking about the podcasts and the more like general musings of writings and stuff. Anyway, maybe that's what I'll spend my summer figuring out how to do, and then start dropping all this writing out, piece by piece, and then doing even more of it. Anyways, that's it for this week. That's it for Tuesday, May 3rd. Happy birthday, Diana. I love you guys. You know what? And happy Eid Mubarak. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's the end of Ramadan. So God bless all my Muslim listeners. I know for fucking sure. There's one of them out there. What's up, Imran? God bless you, buddy. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. And God bless all of you. And I hope you find your yellow pine like I found mine. And I think what I mean by that is like, I hope you find something that makes you. I want you to find something that makes you get rid of everything else. That makes you reduce things. And there's this quote. I don't remember where it came from, but I put it in my phone. It was I don't even know if I wrote this myself and paraphrased, but I wrote, "This isn't a new idea and it also applies over longer periods of time. Most people have or have known someone who has gone through some period of removal that fundamentally changed their attitude that the world they return to. Sometimes that's occasioned by something terrible like illness or loss, and sometimes voluntary. But regardless, that pause in time is often the only thing that can precipitate change on a certain scale." And that's what I found during the pandemic, and that's what I found with my own yellow pine. Um, in that, like, everything was removed from me during the pandemic, and even before it, when I went crazy, like literally all my money was removed from me through my own devices by giving it away, of course. Um, but through that removal of I was my money was removed, and then my options were removed by the pandemic, and then I went out and being free of all that other stuff led me to Idaho, to my own private Idaho and my own private yellow pine. And I hope you can find a place that makes you be like that. I hope you can find a place or a predicament or a feeling that makes you realize that, like, if you don't like the way things have been going in your life, that you can change them. And if I can helpfully provide some of that inspiration, like, you can reinvent yourself even at the ripe old age of 48 or 47, which I was when I came out to Idaho, or 46 really when I came out here. Turned 47 in Macomb, turned 48 in Yellow Pine. I wish the same for you. I wish I just wish happiness and pleasantness for everybody, and I wish freedom from desire, um, and the ability to follow your dreams and put your antenna up and let the universe dictate to you what's next, rather than try to create the world in the way you want it to be. Because isn't that a God complex, right? When you're like, I want things to be like this. I want my environment to be like this. Even like buying a house is something like that. Like, I'm gonna buy this house and I'm gonna make it this way. And obviously, like, it's very smart to buy a house and build a home, especially if you've got a family and children. You want to give them a stable environment to grow up in, and I think that's very super important. But a lot of people try to like control everything around them, and I notice the more money people have, the more they want to control everything, right? Even to the point of these Nest devices that you put in your wall, right? That are like thermostat controlled and like climate control. It's like, it's a very God thing. It's a very God complex thing to be like, I want things to be a certain way, and if they're not a certain way, I'm not going to stop until I change them, and I bend the universe to my will. Well, guess what, bro? You're always going to lose, because no matter how much you get and gain, and how much you think that you're bending the environment to your will with air conditioning or whatever else it is, like, that air conditioning is going to break, man, or the power is going to go out, and you're going to have to realize that you got to be able to survive with the way the universe presents itself to you. You can't bend the universe to make it present itself in the way that you wish. That's enough of my philosophizing for today. I'm all amped up. Holy fuck, it's 8:45. I'm going to have to get to sleep at a certain point so I can get up and go get my motorcycle tomorrow. I don't want to be too tired riding my motorcycle through the cold and rain. Miss Lucille, I can't wait to come and get you. Grangeville, here I come. The Goose, the McQuillan. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's it. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. And don't even keep your feet on the ground. Just fucking jump. Might as well jump. God bless you. Inshallah.